Greetings and welcome to this week's Audit Tuesday on AWS and IAM Auditing. So we've been asked, what does YouAttest offer in addition to what AWS offers for identity auditing? Well, there are many features that YouAttest adds to an AWS identity audit. This video is going to show a few. So for the demo, we have Kashif, our deployment director, and Garrett, our CEO, will do the commentary.
Greetings.
Hi there. So let's start with the cyber component. So YouAttest will show the risk and security manager key aspects of the AWS IAM population. Right, Garrett?
Yeah, that's right, Ashley. Unlike AWS alone, YouAttest highlights weak AWS IAM accounts by identifying what is weak in security. Kasha, why don't you show your screen? YouAttest highlights aged passwords, ones that don't have recent logons, and missing two-factor.
Yes, and if you're looking at my screen, here is one of the AWS audits that we have pulled from AWS IAM. It shows information here that, for example, if your password has gone or expired, we show that information in one place under more details, and you'll be able to see the activity, the status, and if there's anything going on with one of these parameters. And that's being pulled from IAM inside AWS.
Perfect, good stuff. Let's keep going.
So, Kashif, YouAttest offers both users and group audits to pull the same information, and that would require two separate CSV exports from AWS. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, if you want to see users and then you want to see which groups those users belong to, or what permissions and policies have been applied to this user or assigned to those users, you will have to get a separate report or a CSV file to see all that information. And it's only giving you the information, but YouAttest provides you everything in one place, including the user, including the group he belongs to, and then the permissions and policies that user will have inside AWS. So not only you can see the information here, but also you will be able to do the review of those parameters or those attributes. For example, these are those entitlements, I'm sorry. So these entitlements, you are looking at them in one place, and you can decide whether you want to certify for those or you want to revoke one of those entitlements for that particular user. So that's all in one place.
Perfect. So I know you briefly mentioned it, but I want to hone in a little bit. So the enterprise should also audit the AWS IAM policies, right?
Correct.
And that's a manual process in AWS as well, right?
It is a manual process because you export multiple CSVs to see that information, the entitlements, the permissions and policies and the user groups, but we are showing that in one place. We are showing you their permissions, their policies, their groups they belong to, and we are also enabling you to do the review of those entitlements as well within YouAttest.
Okay, so now let's talk the review in general. So Garrett, can you explain what a user access review is?
Yeah. A user access review is the review of rights and entitlements, either or and the resource owner and the manager, for the purpose of attesting to the rights, and it's conducted first for security. NIST 853 spells out that it's best practices, but also for almost all the compliance measures like SOX or HIPAA.
And to do this, one needs to know the managers of the user being audited. Is that correct?
Exactly. So that's the key to a good review, right? Is here a user has entitlements, but we need to know the actual manager of that user and then send them an attestation to the manager and say, do you attest to these rights? That's what an access review is.
So, Kashif, given that AWS IAM is often a standalone identity system, it seems all but impossible to get the manager information in there. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, because AWS does not provide managers information inside their IAM. And yeah, I mean, that's absolutely, because unlike other systems, AWS does not have manager information in there.
So would you mind showing how YouAttest does this by tying the data to an IAM system like Azure AD or Okta?
Of course. So let's say my screen here shows you the dashboard and the tenant that has been tied to one of my Azure AD. You can tie it to your Okta IAM. You can tie it to others. But once you run your AWS audit or any CSV audit, for example, you can fetch the recent or the most current managers of these identities over here that you see. So now you are looking at user manager. It's not available because it's not native to AWS. It's not, giving you that information. But once you have this audit created, you can go into here. There is an option, fetch Azure data, where one of the options is to pull the current manager of each ID that you have inside this campaign. So once you click that, it's going to go inside your Azure AD, because that's your IAM you're connected to, and it will fetch and look for who is the manager for these IDs here. Once the system finds the manager, it will pull those manager information into the ongoing audit, and then you'll be able to see who is reporting to which manager, and it's easier for you to then delegate or assign those users to their respective managers for review.
Okay, so why don't we show a few more features that are not in AWS for identity audit, and then we'll wrap it up. If we could show auto scheduling, multi-tier review, as well as the ability to audit all resources in the environment.
Sure. Let me just pick application audit, for example. Since this tool, this tenant of mine is integrated with one of my Azure AD environments instances, I can show you this application audit I have pulled from my Azure AD. And let's go in here. I have targeted one application, and it's showing me all the users and their email IDs and their managers IDs in one place with a bunch of other details under more detail, right? But once the functionality is the same, you can delegate, you can, auto delegate being the admin, and then reviewer can certify or revoke these accesses. But when you complete your audit, you can not only set a reminder, maybe 30 days, 90 days down the road, to create the same audit, but you can tell the system to create the audit and assign it to the person of your choice at the prescribed time. So if it's Azure AD, you can choose who should this audit be assigned to when it's time. So it could be the manager, it could be an Azure group, it could be an Azure user, or it could be Okta or whatever IAM system you have. So you can not only put a reminder in there, it will create the audit and then assign it to that particular person. So you can do it weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly, whatever is your choice, whatever your compliances needs you to conduct those audits, how frequently, you can decide it from here. So next time, nobody is reminding you, but the system is reminding and creating the audit for you. Now, the multiple tier, we have, there are two ways we do these multiple tiers. For example, if one is multiple reviewers, where you can add reviewers to an audit other than the manager, and then we have added this delegation workflow to the product where you can choose the workflow rules and then decide which user should be sent this audit out to, who should be deciding what to do with the user and his role. And then after that reviewer has completed the task, who should it go out to next to validate what the reviewer has done? And then you can add maybe third or fourth tier as well, like an internal auditor who will evaluate the work done by the reviewer himself and the validator. If he agrees to it, he will conclude the audit. And that's what the report is going to show as a final evidence to the auditor. The other one I would like to show here is, for example, I mean, we are running these auto audits here because the the tenant has been integrated with Azure AD, and then applications are integrated or tied to your Azure AD as well. But what about the application or resources that are not tied to your IAM system? How would you go about those and audit those resources? So we have the other resource module here within YouAttest, where you can upload a CSV, export it from any of the resources that is not connected or tied to your Azure AD or any other IAM system you're using. You use that CSV and upload it to YouAttest, just like I'm doing here. And the magic happens on the very next screen, where it will let you do the mapping. So once you have mapped it to whatever we have in our database, you can select, you can create that audit. And then once the audit is created, the rest of the process is pretty much the same, because let's see, this is one of the CSV audits. Go ahead.
Or it could be API. We can knock these APIs in literally as low as 2 weeks for some of them.
Yes.
All right, Ashley, perfect. Great demos there, Kashif. You showed AWS, you showed our cybersecurity features, you showed how we do access review, single pane of glass, and then we showed the product itself, which is for identity audits of your entire system. That's what we do.
Perfect. Thanks, Kashif. So the next best step for the audience is to just contact us at info@youattest.com, and we will address all your cloud and on-premise identity auditing needs. Thank you, everyone.